Just wanted to point out the information we provide today is of a general advice. If you do want some more information, please seek some professional advice.
Welcome to the Retirement Living Your Way podcast, where we have real conversations with Troy Theobald from RFS Advice. Welcome, Troy.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for that wonderful
It's a pleasure to be here today. And we've got Mr. Peter Muller here, a partner at QBM Lawyers with us. So welcome, Peter.
Well, thanks, Greg.
That's great to see you. Look, today we thought we'd kind of mix it up a little bit. We thought, well, let's have a lawyer in the room and just throw some random questions, and probably not so random, but just things that we're seeing from a retiree space. Obviously, at RFS Advice, we deal predominantly in retirement planning for our clients. And so we do come across a lot of different situations, and I know Troy's sitting there ready to jump in with a few.
I'm looking forward to this one.
Because, we thought it would be a great opportunity just to sort of, we get a lot of questions, and probably, I guess, uncover a lot of, or remove some of the myths that are out there where people, may not know where they can go to get some sort of advice and things like that. So is that, we thought that would work?
Yeah, because people in their working life, they're surrounded by probably professionals and colleagues, and they've got sounding boards. In retirement, you don't tend to have that as much. You're a bit more isolated. So, over time throughout retirement, all these things become bigger. Where they bought and sold cars was a no-brainer throughout their working life. It's a big decision. So there's probably some of those different topics that I want to... We'll start with the big one with, all right, we're thinking of downscaling the home. We have RFS Aged Care, so we have and deal with people if they're in-home care, need to move to an aged care facility. The legal side, so they're worried. The granular of what do we need? All right, we're going to sign something with the real estate. What should we be scared of? And they're scared of everything. So a lot of people do nothing. How do we help them move forward and move some of that?
Okay, now this is something where these days, just very recently, on the 1st of August, Queensland brought in a new seller disclosure regime for property sales, and it's now moved to, in Queensland, it's always been let the buyer beware, and the contracts don't really protect buyers from, say, problems with the house. The contracts are really driven towards selling land rather than what's attached to it. And so we've now got this new property disclosure regime. It would save time and money if someone was going to sell a house to actually get ready for it. There's a lot of material online about it. Like we put a page on our website so that people can go to that, and then they can start putting the material together to get ready to sell. So that's the first thing. Sometimes the agents will say that they'll put it together for you. They might charge $1,000 for it. My personal view is that you're better off having the lawyer do it, because they're going to have to do that work anyway at some point in time, and so so you'd probably end up paying
as part of the conveyance.
Conveyance. That's right. It's still this new requirement. It does add costs, but if the lawyer's going to have to do half of it anyway, well, then you may as well get it done by the lawyer. But of course I'm going to say that because I'm a lawyer.
Yeah, of course,
But then the other thing that I'd say to people before they appoint an agent is that they need to be really careful about the agency appointment. And I see this quite a lot. The agent's appointments, even though they're in a standard form in Queensland, this is all Queensland, by the way, they have provisions in there where a lot of them require the seller to pay commission even if the contract doesn't settle. And now in some situations if the contract's terminated because the buyer defaulted, then usually the seller will have to pay the commission. Now sometimes if the buyer's defaulted and the deposit wasn't paid, that really means that the seller's got to pay the commission out of their own pocket, and then they've got to go chase the buyer for it as damages, which is involving a lot of legal costs. And just as a very, very extreme example of how bad this can be, there's a Supreme Court decision from last year, and I think it went on appeal, and the appeal was decided this year, where an agent was to get his commission, I think anything that was achieved in the price over $10.5 million. It was a big thing. The contract was signed at about 11.5, I think, from memory, but the deposit was only about $200,000. the buyer didn't settle, the contract was terminated, the agent sued the seller and won for over $1 million in commission when the only amount obtained by the seller was $200,000. Now, for most people, we're talking about retirees who aren't going to be selling something for $11 million.
No.
But the point is the same, that you need to, I think the best idea is to actually check the agent's appointment with
Is
the
that
lawyer.
the Form 6?
Yeah, and what it is that there's a provision in there that says when is commission payable, and the first box that can be ticked says if a contract of sale is entered into and it settles, I think, and then the second box says see standard terms and conditions. If the second box is ticked, that's a problem.
Right. That's...
Okay. Taking notes.
I'm taking notes on that one. No, that's
Look, it's my agent friends out there probably won't like me for saying
No,
that,
but that's...
that would be any time that we get to see it, and we've got a web page on
Yes.
it. But any time we see an agent's appointment before it's signed, we always have that changed.
Right.
And
I think the key is that you are signing a legal document at that point. And the agents can make it, it's just this, it's just that. No, this is a legally binding agreement. And for anything else, those people would probably go and get legal advice for a legally binding. And I can tell you, I know most clients probably don't. They go, thinking of selling their house, they've already signed and appointed the agent before they... And did you get legal? Well, why would I get that? Now, that's a great example.
yeah.
We get to, all right, we've appointed them. So many of them are doing this, we'll just make a letter of offer, expressions of interest. How binding aren't some of these? Because it seems to be really prevalent now.
Look, and that's a hard one. Each one depends on its terms, but generally speaking, nothing's going to really bind a buyer unless the disclosure is done.
Yes.
And so the disclosure statement has to be done and exchanged first, except in very, very limited circumstances. So that's probably saved a few of the problems that we had before with these expressions of interest and term sheets and this, that and the other thing. So generally speaking, you'd be relatively safe, but you're better off not to sign anything before you've had a lawyer check it.
Yes.
And because you don't want to get into an argument and then have to fight your way out of it. It just involves spending money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other side of it is too that if you're a seller and you sign something which could take effect as a contract, even though it's not in normal contract form, you're bound by it, but the buyer's not. Because of this disclosure issue. So it really means that, and we're seeing quite a bit of this at the moment with people not having done disclosure properly since the 1st of August.
Yeah.
We've already seen, I've seen 3 at our office.
Oh, wow.
And in each case, when we're acting for the buyer, the sellers have realised that they've got a problem, and so the agent goes running around trying to get the contract rescinded and a proper one done. And we think, well, what benefit is it to our client? Because our client's got a termination right at any time up until settlement at the moment, and something might happen in their life to make them change their mind. So why should we go from a position of being able to walk away if we wanted to one where we can't?
Yeah. Yeah.
So short answer is don't sign anything till you see a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's one we do come across. And then also the timing of some of these, because people are then, we see a lot of people signing for these relocatable homes, retirement villages. These are very complex. We urge people, don't be rushed. There's no urgency. You do need advice on these, because these can be an absolute debacle with some of these terms that, I've come across personally. You've come across a lot more than us, and they're really hard to fix after, because again, people are signing a contract.
And the site rules, the rules for the park, they have to be read through, and a lot of them have got indemnities and all sorts of legal obligations in them that people aren't really aware of.
Yeah.
And I actually find it a bit odd that in a situation where really people are looking to simplify their life, they're probably going to go into the most complicated legal document that they ever have.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of them are actually hard for the lawyers to understand. And trying to work out the amount that people are, say for a retirement village, for example, trying to work out the amount that they get back after they leave is sometimes quite challenging and look, can come out with some fairly odd outcomes, as well as other issues where, for example, people might go into a fairly low care environment, but then have to escalate, but they end up still on the block and having to pay for the low one while they're also paying for the high one. That happens more and more because people don't tend to go into the villages and things until much later these days.
Yeah, and the facilities, the clients, they'll explain it to me. Oh no, I can go from low care to high care, and I just move into the room. I'm like, it's not quite.
Simple. It's kind of true.
Yeah.
But they're
Kind of.
but they're going to still have to pay the freight on the old one in the meantime. Usually.
Yeah. And a lot of people, that can be a short time frame because facilities wanting to fill beds, sell rooms. That's what they do. They're running a business, unfortunately, and they'll get people signed up to one, and it can be a very short period after. Because with the RFS aged care, we do see. Unfortunately, situations in health change quite quickly. So, and you see people just getting double lots of fees that, with a bit better advice, they may be able to have avoided that.
And just on the time frames, because Troy made the comment earlier about sometimes there's people feel like they've got to sign it on the spot and things like that, and obviously they might feel like there's a bit of pressure, which clearly there shouldn't be. Yeah. For you to review some of these sorts of documents, is there a long, what sort of time frame would it take?
It depends on what's going on and how complicated they are.
Yes.
But realistically, some of them are very, very simple. And you could virtually do it within a couple of days.
Yep.
And some of them are much more complicated, and it's going to take potentially weeks. But
you probably, if you're looking to enter into one of those agreements, it's even more important to get the advice. As well.
And some of them have very, very odd structures where you're effectively buying a lease and then subleasing back, and then they've got mortgages and they've got a series of complicated documents. And it can be quite hard explaining them to the clients because, like we had one recently where a park actually, they had a certification from the lawyer that the client understood the provisions of the park rules. And look, the park rules were complicated, and the client had some medical challenges, and I wasn't comfortable with it at all. And in the end, he went. The client had to go somewhere else, but. That was it is a situation where sometimes we're a little bit hamstrung by the nature of the documents themselves, which need to be complicated because the parks will want to have the ability to effectively control people in case there's a problem. Right. I haven't, but and there is a lot of protection under the Acts as well.
The other one, we have a lot of people down sailing from a house, lived in houses their whole life. This unit looks lovely. Agent here, sign here. Before we do the lovely sign here, because we've got to secure it today. Is there areas that, what types of areas do you, because I see you groan sometimes and people are buying units and different things and whatever, but it's, is there a broad area of things at least to give them something to consider before they, sign away without any thought?
Living in a community title, a unit, is not everyone's cup of tea. It wouldn't be mine. I think I'd upset way too many people in too short a period of time. But if you're the kind of person who's going to get upset if you can smell cabbage in the foyer or someone leaves their rubbish outside the door or something like that, then maybe you should think about that before signing to live in a place that's populated, where you're going to be in close proximity to a lot of other people. But if I was just generally speaking, our recommendation for people when they're buying in a unit in a community title is to have the minutes have a full body corporate search done, so that they can see whether there's fighting going on in the body corporate, because there can be problems with the body corporate itself, a lot of infighting, and it can really make people's lives a misery. And if they get caught up in it, sometimes there can be just one difficult person in there, usually more than one, but there does tend to always be one.
Yeah.
And I suppose you then have to balance whether that's the kind of environment that you want to live in, against the benefit being that you can just lock the door and walk away from the place and go for a holiday and not have to worry about the place, which is really the big attraction with the units and things.
Yeah.
And also the closeness of facilities, which are good. But then, just to finish up, you also need to be careful about the body corporate levies and the maintenance costs and things. And I think so. I would probably recommend that anyone who buys a unit, that they make the contract subject to being satisfied with a inspection of the body corporate records.
Okay.
And what happens is that someone then goes off. It does cost money. I think it's at least $500. But someone goes off and they have a look through all the minutes to see if there's any problems bubbling away, and make sure that the levies look good, that the sinking funds there, that there's enough money to cover anticipated outlays. I was talking to one of my clients yesterday, phoned me up about a particular development, which is a nice one, but he said that there's a potential for about $30,000 in sinking levies being struck.
Well, when you said $500, we hear it all the time of, I asked and they said there's nothing. 6 months later they come in, they need a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 redemption from the event. But we asked and they didn't tell us. So that's what, interesting from your viewpoint. We see the other side of it when they're asking for the money after, and there's nothing you want to go to someone, well, why don't you do it in advance? Because people are excited, they want to buy the unit. You don't want to be the poo-pooer, but it's like you have legals, you have these things for a reason. I asked the agent, I asked whatever. Well, all right, maybe you didn't quite get the answer that it could have been.
Yeah, that's right. And generally speaking, on the committees of these bodies corporate, there are people who want to get involved, and then they will generally drive it. And you see a lot of fighting at the committee level, and a lot of jostling for positions and things. And in some of the most beautiful places that I'd like to live on the coast, I never would, because it's just a snake pit.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, and we do hear all about it from our clients. It's interesting from your perspective, and our clients are just probably that level where it's annoying, let alone they've got to it being a legal issue, which is a whole... we've seen people have to sell out of complexes and things from that. And
you need to be able to... I think you need to be able to disassociate from it. If you're the kind of person who's going to fixate on it, well, then unit living's probably not for you.
Yeah, and I'm probably with Peter. That would bug me, but other people wouldn't care.
Yeah, that's right. I think, you'd have to really be able to roll with it.
Changing tack to others, the other big purchase, when people are buying cars in retirement, I'm feeling like we're picking on the real estate, pick on the car sales. Yeah, just sign here, all care, no response. Yeah, they'll just put a hold on it. We've just signed for an $80,000, $90,000 car, and, people get excited. Then they think, did I do a good deal? They go down the road, find there's one for $20,000 less. Any tips before they just blindly sign and pay some money, apart from don't do it?
Oddly enough, we do see a bit of that. I think and a lot of the time, someone will go in thinking that they're after a particular kind of car. That car is not available, but here's this brown one that's in a much lower spec, and you can drive that away today. And they get caught up, and then they do it, and then they then get very upset and they wish that they hadn't. And there are cooling off periods that apply in relation to some transactions, but I think from memory that once you've taken the car, well, then that's gone. Your cooling off period's ended. And also, I don't think it applies to second-hand cars. So, yes, look, it is a big investment, and it's something you're going to live with. I've seen a number of people sort of have second thoughts, and so I would recommend that you have a good think before you pay the money and before you actually take the thing, and in fact before you sign the contract, and make sure that it's got a cooling off period, and make sure that you know when it's going to end. We do get with what we're seeing a lot more of these days, though, is people having problems with their cars and being able to return them because it's a major failure under the Australian consumer law. And there's been some quite I saw a decision the other day where a Gold Coast motor dealer had to return a Kia Carnival, I think it was, about 3 years after they had to take it back, and refund the money about 3 years after the person took it, because it had had persistent problems, and because these days and I'm getting a little bit off topic, but these days sometimes you can return something if it's had a series of smaller problems, if the effect of it would have been that a reasonable person wouldn't have bought it had they known it was going to have those problems.
Right. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So we look at some other areas there where people are transacting out there, and the kids come home all excited, but we're wanting to help them with their first home and get in there. Here's the little thought, Mum and Dad, you just signed this guarantee. The bank just want it. Mortgage brokers said, "Oh, it's not a problem. It's just paperwork." What are we getting ourselves into here?
Look, everyone's different, and I've never come across the actual solution to it. So sometimes I actually prefer that people don't ask me about these things before they.
Glad the microphone's on there.
because there isn't actually a good answer to it. But the effect of it is, if you're going to be a guarantor for someone, well then you can expect. You should work on the basis that it's going to be called on, and one of the things that you need to be a little bit careful about is whether it gives a charge over your property. Things are a little bit better nowadays because of the unfair contract terms legislation, but back several years ago, if you'd given someone a guarantee, and you had money with the bank could swipe the money out of your account when the borrower defaulted, and I've seen that happen a few times. There's some other things that you need to be careful of, which they call charging clauses, where in the guarantee you charge your property in favour of the lender. Most of those things aren't in the major banks' documents. The major banks' documents are provided that they're for consumer lending, are pretty vanilla. But you still should take legal advice. It's a big obligation. If you're guaranteeing $1 million loan, the effect of it is that you could be called on to pay $1 million. And normally they won't have to go to the borrower first before they ask for it from you.
Wow.
Well, they don't have to sue and exhaust their remedy against the borrower or the property before they do. So I'd say normally in that situation, the bank would want a certificate of independent advice anyway. So you're going to have to go off to a lawyer, and the lawyer will give you that advice.
Yes.
But then there are other situations where, if, for example, you've been asked to help your kids out with a deposit. And this is another situation we do see a bit of, and people say it's been a loan, but a lot of the time the banks will get them to sign off on something to say it was a gift.
Yes.
Because it's needed for the equity to avoid mortgage insurance.
Yes.
And this tends to become a problem if one of the kids is bankrupted or something, and then the parents trying to say that they had a loan, and look, it becomes a mess. And you don't want to be running a case trying to say someone owed me money, but I fraudulently signed a document that said that it was a gift for to help them out. It's just not a good look.
So just Pete, similar sort of vein. Any thoughts on ways people can, I guess, protect themselves in the event of lending money to children? Just so, let's just say I wanted to give $50,000 to one of my children. What should I be doing? You know, obviously there should be is there a loan agreement?
Well,
what sort of things should I do?
The operative word is give. If it's a gift, it's a gift.
But if
it's a loan, it's a loan. But it has to really be a loan. It can't be a gift that's pretending to be a loan.
No.
And because essentially, if it becomes that problem where it's to be tested,
yes,
then a court is going to look to see how you actually dealt with it. For example, if you wanted to loan your kid $50,000 and it was okay, it's going to be like 5% interest or 2% interest, payable monthly, and then you actually and the loan's repayable in 5 years, and you never take the interest, and you don't ask for the repayment in 5 years, but then in 10 years' time, your kid has a fight with their spouse, and you're looking to shore it up.
Yeah.
And you say, well, you owe me $50,000 plus $15,000 in interest. Well, it's not going to. You're going to have problems.
Right.
And but if you'd been taking your 3% interest all the way through, and maybe extended the loan, well then, provided it's genuinely a loan, well then you shouldn't have too many dramas.
Mm-hmm. So do you see much of it? Like people,
look, we do, and it's
bank of mum and dad.
Look, we see it. We see it a lot where people have done it and are looking to shore themselves up when it's a problem, and look, we'd rather not get involved to some extent, because a lot of the time the damage is done, and it really needs to be sorted out at the beginning when
But coming and having a chat with you to sort of say, okay, look, I want to lend X amount of dollars for these reasons.
Yes.
How do we? That's
no
the right
problem.
way.
I see Peter laughing because I've seen with him enough times in the room. If you're going to give them the money, consider it gone. And you see people and I'm like, but now you're giving those examples. It's because I see the other side, the shock on the other side of this is all going to. It's like. They all want it one way, but it all had to be another way for something else, and it shouldn't be a shock, unfortunately.
And look, I can't blame them. The people think, well, look, I want to give my daughter $200,000 because I love my daughter. I don't necessarily love my son-in-law, and I don't want to give him $100,000 out of that $200,000. I can kind of understand that.
Yes.
But it's not really the way it works. So,
and I think the point of this podcast really was just looking at a number of these things people do every day, or you might do it once or twice a year throughout retirement, but people get themselves into this situation with just not thinking what could happen, as opposed to it's just having that association with your legal advisor that's there when you want that help. So I know at QBM Lawyers there, Peter, I know that we've got joint clients there that I'll just go ask Peter, send him that email, or CC us and send it to Peter, and you'll just give him an answer and then everyone can move on. But at least it's had some consideration, or just hold fire on that. Is it can we just check that document for you, and then you can move forward? And I think just that little bit of pause, because when you're buying something and everything, the person who's the seller, whether it's the real estate agent, they make money on transactions. That's just what it is. Yes. They want a transaction.
Yes.
They're obviously keen for you to sign something to go ahead. They're not actually looking probably to defraud or trap you in anything. They're just wanting to get a transaction so they know they get paid. That's their job. So it's just understanding, okay, it's your role to protect yourself. That's not what they're sitting there to do.
That's right. And look, that is right, because the problem is once you sign something, it's even though we've got a lot of protection these days under the unfair contract terms legislation or the National Consumer Code, you still have a presumption that when people sign something that's really what they, that's a contract that they've entered into. So trying to wriggle out of it later on is always hard, and it's always expensive. And so it's the kind of thing where you're better off to just make a couple of calls first, check people out before you deal with them, and I can understand people sort of thinking, well, look, I don't really have a continuing relationship with a lawyer or an accountant or a financial planner, and if I go and see them, it's going to cost me money. If you have got a good relationship, well, then you probably, sometimes you might actually be able to run something past them without getting charged. But I think it is really something where you can save a lot of money in the long term by making the inquiries first.
Oh, the cost of getting some of these things wrong is immense, and that personal heartache and
the anxiety that comes with
that's what we see, that side of it, just people going through it, and people come to us. For us, there's no monetary whatever relationship with QBM lawyers or with Peter. It's just the fact when they ask, I go, well, I would go there because Peter's attitude is, can we solve the problem in advance before we have the problem, not fight over it after? And I've heard you say that to so many people, and I just see that as a better method than, all right, sometimes it might be a bit of an uncomfortable conversation in advance, but oh my goodness, the ones in arrears that we see people go through, and they're not quick. These things go on and on and on and just ruin lives and relationships and retirements for a long period of time.
That's right. Yes.
So, Pete, how do people find you?
Website's the best.
Yep.
At www.qbmlawyers.com.au.
There you go. And I must say, you've got some fantastic resources on your website.
We do, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Look, we try to set it up there so that people can half educate themselves before they come in. So that so there is quite a bit of things in there. Links to resources.
Yep.
Some of the government websites are very good as well.
Yes. No, I've dug into there a few times, and it's great information. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much. Thank you, Troy.
Nope, thank you, Peter, for being in the hot seat.
Yes, and if anyone has any questions for us at RFS Advice, just rfsadvice.com. Check us out at our website and send us a link, and we're happy to have a chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.